Hey everybody, I'm Chris Provost, and today on Provost Park Pass, we're going to be discussing the mysteries of New Orleans Square. Woohoo! New Orleans Square was the first new land added to Disneyland at a cost of about $18 million. New Orleans Square actually costs more than the original Disneyland. It's a lot of money, but worth every buccaneer. New Orleans Square is the only land in all of Disneyland that's actually made after a real city. If you notice, the intricate ironwork, that's what sets the French Quarter apart down in New Orleans Square, and they've replicated that here in New Orleans, this intricate ironwork. So one of the cool things for people who have really sharp eyes is if you look up and you see the ironwork, sometimes behind it, you can tell what type of occupation the inhabitant has of that particular French Quarter. For example, there's voodoo, there's a typewriter for Mark Twain, there's also musical instruments for the jazz musicians. So when you're walking around New Orleans Square, always keep your eyes up to find out who lives in which apartment. The attention to detail in Disneyland is amazing, particularly down here in New Orleans Square. If you look up here, you'll see this little plaque. That stands for fire insurance. And the way that it used to work back in the day is you would buy those plaques and put them on your house. If your house caught on fire, the firemen would come and they saw that you had that plaque, they would work really hard to put out the fire. If you didn't have a plaque, so there are 6 of those hidden throughout New Orleans Square. Now, this is why Disneyland is so cool. 4 of those 6 are actually originals brought in from New Orleans Square. Here in the French Quarter, New Orleans Square, if you look up, you can actually see these iron girders holding up the second balcony. And where the iron girders touch the wall, there's some rust that's coming down. Now, that's just something really cool. You're like, wow, there's rust. But then you start thinking about it, you're like, wait, it doesn't really rain in California, so why is there rust on the building? They painted it. That's right, the rust on the building is actually painted by Disney Imagineers. Just one of the attentions to detail here in Disneyland. So this is Club 33, one of the exclusive clubs in Disneyland. And actually, this is just a facade. This used to be the doorway into the club, but they've actually moved the door over there. Now, people often wonder why. Why do they call it Club 33? Some people speculate it's because of the 33 original founders, 33 investors, only 33 members. Most likely is that Club 33 is the only place in Disneyland that serves alcohol. And in order to have a license to serve alcohol, they had to have an address. So the address was 33 Royal Street. There you go. So this used to be called the Courtyard of Angels, and there's a beautiful staircase where families could go take photos. They had to close that off now because of moving the entrance to Club 33. This now is actually the true door to Club 33 right here. Disneyland is a great place to bring your friends. And speaking of friends, are any of you a fan of the television show Friends? If you are, you might recognize this banner. There was a replica of this banner hanging in the Friends apartment in New York City. One other thing for you sharp-eyed people out there, there's actually a mast at the top of the roof line back there to let you know that New Orleans Square is actually a port town. So New Orleans Square opened in 1966. There's so many things here that just will blow your mind. If you look up here, you'll see 3 flags. The French flag, the American flag, and the Spanish flag. The reason there are 3 flags here is because New Orleans has been under the occupation of all 3 countries. The more you know. You might be wondering what time it is. Well, when you're in New Orleans Square, it's New Orleans circa 1850 to 1860. That's the time frame of New Orleans Square. New Orleans Square opened in 1966, and sadly Walt passed away 6 months later. He was never able to see the completed land. New Orleans Square has 3 attractions in it. 1, Pirates of the Caribbean. Number 2, the Haunted Mansion. And 3, Disneyland Railroad. Now keep in mind, some of Disneyland aficionados only count the railroad as one ride on Main Street. So if you count it that way, there's only 2 attractions in New Orleans Square. If you don't, then there's 3. When you are here in New Orleans Square and you go by the train station, listen very carefully and you'll hear some clacking. That is actually Morse code, and what it's saying is Walt Disney's opening day dedication speech for Disneyland. It's just those little things that make Disneyland so awesome. Pirates of the Caribbean opened in 1967. There's 119 characters in Pirates of the Caribbean. There's 75 pirates and villagers and 54 animals. There is 750,000 gallons of water in Pirates of the Caribbean. It takes 3 days to drain it and refill it whenever they have to do repairs. That's a lot of water. It's a lot of bloomin' water. Arr. Well, Here we are in Pirates of the Caribbean, and we have our own boat. Pirates of the Caribbean takes 15 minutes to do an entire loop. 15 minutes, can you believe that? Mark Davis is the main influence for Pirates of the Caribbean. He's the one that came up with the concept and ideas for pirates. His wife, Alice Davis, she was actually the costumer for all the pirates. Now, Alice was worried when she was making the costumes that they would wear out from the inside because of all the servos and oil. So she asked if she could make 2 costumes for each pirate. They told her no, it'd be too expensive. But Alice, knowing what she knew, she ordered twice as much material and ended up making 2 costumes for every pirate. A couple months later, after Pirates of the Caribbean opened, there was a small fire and it burned a couple of the pirates' costumes. They were in a panic and they asked Alice to make some more costumes, and she had them right there in hand. Because of this, they now have 3 costumes for every pirate in Pirates of the Caribbean, always on hand. Some interesting facts about Pirates of the Caribbean is when you're riding the ride and you go through the treasure room, there's over 400,000 pieces of gold in that treasure room. Something cool to notice in the ride is the 2 skeletons playing chess in the bar area. The Imagineers have put the chess pieces in a way that's impossible for either one of them to win. Also, the skull on the captain's bed above the captain's head is actually a real human skull. When you board the ride of Pirates of the Caribbean and come around, you'll see a skeleton's head up atop talking to you. That is voiced by Ex Enticio. Ex Enticio is actually the person who wrote the lyrics to Yo Ho, A Pirate's a Life for Me, and he's also the one who wrote all the dialogue for every one of the pirates in Pirates of the Caribbean. Pirates of the Caribbean has gone through considerable renovations over time. The first major renovation for Pirates of the Caribbean was in 1997. That's when they added like the sword fights, the shadow sword fights, a lot of lighting techniques. Unfortunately, a lot of these improvements were overshadowed by the fact that the pirates were reversed, so now the women were chasing the men rather than the men chasing the women. The next big, huge renovation in Pirates of the Caribbean was in 2006 when they added the characters of Barbarossa, Davy Jones, and of course, Captain Jack Sparrow. It took the Imagineers 3 years to map out, plan, and install the 2006 renovation to Pirates of the Caribbean. There are actually 5 named characters in Pirates of the Caribbean. Of course, you have Captain Jack Sparrow and Barbarossa and Davy Jones, but do you know the 2 other named characters? That's right, there's Carlos, the mayor, and Bill, the old pirate by the cats. Right in the heart of New Orleans Square is this beautiful, beautiful fountain. Now, for those of you who come to Disneyland in the hot months, you want to know this place because of all the trees and all the leaves. It's a nice little shady canopy. It's a great place to come, relax, kind of cool down, and just kind of recharge your batteries. This funeral carriage was supposedly Brigham Young's actual funeral carriage. When you're waiting in line at the Haunted Mansion, there are actually 2 graveyards to see. First is the animal graveyard right here, and then the second is the crypts that you'll see, which have hilarious things written on them. Rest in peace, I'll be back, empty tomb, I truly departed. The exterior of the Haunted Mansion was actually completed in 1963, where it stood empty for 6 years. It didn't open to public until 1969, leaving guests wondering for 6 years what was going to be inside. All it said on the front was a little message saying Walt was out collecting ghosts. Another interesting fact about the Haunted Mansion is the forced perspective made to make the building look taller. Each floor subsequently gets smaller and smaller, making it look like it's getting taller and taller and taller. If you look when you're waiting in line, you'll see some tombstones up on a hill. These were the actual original tombstones made for the Haunted Mansion. As the Haunted Mansion has been updated throughout time, they've actually moved the original tombstones right here to the hill. The Haunted Mansion is actually the first ride that was the Haunted Mansion was actually the very first ride and attraction to be opened without Walt's guidance. Here I am, Haunted Mansion. When the Imagineers first started to design the Haunted Mansion, they wanted it to be a dilapidated, run-down building. Walt disagreed and said no. He wanted the building exterior to be clean like the rest of Disneyland. He once famously said, "We'll take care of the outside. The ghosts, they'll take care of the inside." The Haunted Mansion has 2 different themes. There's a holiday theme and just the normal theme. The holiday theme runs from September to January, where the normal theme is the rest of the year. I personally like the regular Haunted Mansion. The cameraman Greg here, he likes the holiday version better. The Haunted Mansion has a doom buggy to carry its passengers through the house. The doom buggy can carry 1,200 people per hour. When you're riding, keep a sharp eye and look out for the organ in the ballroom. The organ was actually originally in 2,000 Leagues Under the Sea, a 1954 Walt Disney film. Originally, the Imagineers wanted a raven to be the narrator through the Haunted Mansion, much like Edgar Allan Poe's story, The Raven. The idea was later scrapped, but there are still 4 ravens that you can find within the Haunted Mansion. See if you can find them. When you enter the graveyard in the Haunted Mansion, there's some busts that are singing. One of the broken busts is voiced by Thurl Ravenscroft. He also actually voiced Tony the Tiger. They're great! And he sang, "You're a meat one, Mr. Grinch." When you go into the seance room, you'll see Madame Leota. She's in a crystal ball. She was voiced by Eleanor Audley. Eleanor actually also voiced the evil stepmother in Cinderella and Maleficent in Sleeping Beauty. Isn't that Maleficent? Thank you so much. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. It's a lot of fun to research it. If you did enjoy it, please subscribe down below and let your friends know about this channel. Hit that little notification button. That way you're notified when I come up with new videos. Next week's video is going to be on Critter Country. Also, if you want to follow this channel right here, this is my wife's vlog. She vlogs almost every single day. You can follow the shenanigans of my beautiful wife and my adorable little son. It's a lot of fun. Thanks, guys. I appreciate your support. See you next week.